Good morning and welcome to the TCS Impact Series. I'm James Erasmus and I'm very honored today to have Dr. Philip Tromp, who is the founder and CEO of the Xea Capital Group, and Deon Tromp, who's now the CEO of Omnea. Now, what a fantastic rebranding exercise and an opportunity for us to reposition what was Trustlink into this fascinating space of fintech. Thank you very, very much, both of you, for joining us today at TechCentral. We really look forward to hearing more about Omnea and where we're going with this new brand. Dr. Tromp, you're based in Switzerland at the moment. Please tell us a bit more about how this has come about and why you are rebranding and repositioning Trustlink.
Yeah, thank you, James. This is quite a story, and it has quite a long history. And I would like to take you back to where it all began. In the 90s, we did a project at the Reserve Bank where I was IT director, and it was about the national payment system, and specifically the risk that was in the system at the time. Now, as you know, South Africa has for a long time had a very efficient and effective payment system, one of the best in the world. But unfortunately, at that point in time, the risk exposure of the South African system was not very clear, and the Reserve Bank was concerned that something needed to be done about it as the economy opened to the rest of the world. And I led a project team that looked at this situation and did an analysis of the issues of the day, using an interesting collaborative approach at the time, where the central bank involved the commercial banks in this initiative. And it was a joint effort, a consensus building initiative that resulted in a national framework and strategy document that guided the evolution of the payment system for many years.
And that's where SWIFT was born from.
Yes, South Africa actually used SWIFT since about 40 years ago. And when we got to the modernization of the payment system, this project, SWIFT, of course, was part and parcel of that and built into the new real-time solution. So this blueprint that was developed by the industry resulted in a few very important initiatives. The first was the development of a National Payment System Act. Prior to that, there were a lot of regulations, and there was the Banks Act and the Reserve Bank Act, but there was no specific act to guide the payment system and how it was utilized in the economy. So this act came into being, and part of that was the birth of PASA, the Payment Association of South Africa, which guides the payment system on a day-to-day basis, the operational side of the system, and also the participation is managed by PASA. And then the third thing was, for the first time, through this initiative, non-banks like retailers were allowed to enter the payment system and provide payment services. And the final thing was the development of a new interbank settlement system, which enabled banks to transfer value in real time, which was a first for South Africa at the time. So that was the launch pad of everything we've done since then.
Thank you very much for explaining that, because I think that the provenance of where you've come from is critical in us understanding where you're going to. And Deon, I'd love you to talk a bit more, please, if you don't mind, about just talking to the point about fintech and how through the open digital platform that you're offering, you're going to be, and I think in your words, leveling the playing field.
Thank you, James. So what we've identified is that there's a challenge for non-financial players to get involved in the payments space. So what we've been developing over the last couple of years, and it leverages quite heavily off our history, is the ability to enable other parties to actually participate in the payment space. So if you think about the barriers for those guys, it's largely regulatory. So you've got barriers in terms of compliance requirements that guys need to meet, and usually non-financial services entities are not geared to meet those compliance requirements. Secondly, it's quite complex to try and integrate with the banking service and with the financial services providers in the country in general. So there's a lot of technology and security and things like that involved. And then also there's a pricing bias in the industry, whereby if you're a smaller guy, your pricing is based on your volumes and values of transactions, and because of that you will never be able to compete from a transaction fee point of view with a large player. So we've identified the opportunity to act as an aggregator from a payment point of view, and then negotiate rates on behalf of our user base. So what we built was a platform that actually allows us to on-sell bank services as well as other fintech services, and thereby enabling businesses that have traditionally not been in the fintech space to actually have a fintech component to their product offering.
I see how, having spearheaded the fintech movement originally and having been one of the first fintech businesses in Africa, this definitely feeds into the character and the values behind which you deliver what you do. And I love what you're saying, how you're creating what sounds like a software platform, which I assume can be on-prem or off-prem, which consumers, customers, clients can use, but so too can individuals make benefits of your services.
Yes, so we've developed a couple of front-end products as well that runs off our platform. There's a consumer mobile wallet that offers a range of payment services in that mobile wallet that people can use to go do their grocery shopping. They can send money to family and friends. We try and do all the transactions instantaneously, so there's no delay in the process, and you kind of get certainty and trust in the process because you get access to your money immediately.
And
we've also built
that's a platform called Chips.
Chips Money Manager. It's available on the App Store, the Play Store, and the Y Gallery. Then we've also developed a similar product for smaller businesses, and with that product, it works on the same plumbing, but you've got a whole range of payment acquiring capabilities, physical card, debit, credit, EFTs, cash deposits, all kinds of things. Everything settling instantly into your account and already reconciled, so you don't need to go and do a whole reconciliation process. And then the money is immediately available for you to do salary payments, wage payments, supplier payments, all that kind of stuff. So what we try and do is we try and position ourselves as bank independent. So we partner with multiple banks in a relationship whereby we on-sell their services as opposed to being a direct competitor to the banks. We're actually just trying to bring more convenience and more access to bank services to the general public and other businesses.
There's a lot of closed loop operation here, talking about creating the cashless environment, enabling the end user to engage in a almost actually an instantaneous process. So what differentiates Omnia from anybody else in the market? What are your unique selling propositions?
Yeah, so James, I think because of the depth of our integration and the number of services that we can offer through one channel, that gives us a competitive advantage. The other thing is also that we've developed a unique method that allows us to stay within compliance, but to offer a service where we can accept payments on behalf of third parties, and thereby making it available to them in real time. So we don't need to wait for the bank settlement and clearing process to make the money available. We can actually provide liquidity to the system and give people access to their money much, much quicker. So for example, it doesn't matter whether we settle in real time 24 hours a day and over weekends and public holidays. So we don't have the delays of the traditional banking system that is dependent on work days like a lot of other players might. And then also the fact that we can offer these services at a very, very competitive rate because we benefit from aggregation. So because we aggregate, we negotiate with the fintech players and the banks to offer the services at a lowest possible rate to the market. And in some cases, we obviously can't beat what the big players get from their banks, but we can definitely accommodate some of the middle size and smaller guys to get a much, much better pricing deal than they get from the traditional players.
Thanks, Deon. And I think a lot of what you're saying also makes me feel as if a lot of your history brings a lot of the credibility and the intellectual knowledge and capital that you're bringing forward into Omnia, and that focus on niche. You know, the new animal that is going to be Omnia is going to bring about a lot of those perfections that you've honed over time. It's fascinating to hear. So thank you for explaining that. So Deon, this rebranding Omnia, O-M-N-E-A, Omnia. What does it actually mean?
James, Omnia is derived from the word omni, which is multi or multiple, and it talks to the breadth of the products that we actually offer and the markets that we serve. So we've got customers, banks, corporates, small medium enterprises. We've got consumer customers. So we basically cover all levels of the market, and then the range of products that we offer is substantial. So we've got card services, we've got e-commerce services, we've got card terminals in store, mobile wallets, anything that is happening in the payment space. We offer that service either as a reseller or we use it in our own products. We've got quite a few of the large corporates and asset managers and banks that make use of our back office automation capabilities, where we've integrated their back office systems into either their banks or their national payment system or whoever. And then on the smaller scale, we have new startup fintechs or more established businesses that want to get into the financial services space, and then we enable them by providing them with payment solutions and wallet solutions and things that they can take to the market with their brand. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to become an enabler of others, whereby those others can then also expand their product offering and offer a wider customer base than what they're doing with their existing. So we position ourselves as a TechFin as opposed to a fintech. So we are technology first, and we provide technology to other people that want to get into the fintech space.
Understood. Thank you. That's a very clear answer. And I think it's wonderful to see how you've also created a network of partnerships, but also sister companies that support and are on that journey with you. And we'll understand a little bit more about that in reading up about the launch of the new brand. So thank you. A note I'm making to myself here is that effectively, Omnia supports secure payment and data exchange with the use of technology. And that's why we're so pleased to have you on TechCentral today. But also an important part of what TechCentral often talk about is how you make a difference. Philip, we talked about unique selling propositions and some of the differentiators that Omnia are bringing to market. What are some of the differences Omnia are bringing to society?
I think our aim from the very start was to make a difference to society and to make life easier for business and for individuals. Now, our history started with the central bank area, where we took a system that is mainly focused on big economies and sophisticated economies, and we made that available to smaller countries and developing markets. And I think in that regard, we enabled them to participate in the same risk, let's say reduced risk environment that is enjoyed by the central banks of the world in the first world economies. Secondly, we saw in the SWIFT world an opportunity to support smaller institutions in entering the SWIFT system and enabling them to do SWIFT transfers within their business. And to that end, we established Trustlink and created a bureau service which enables SWIFT small customers to join SWIFT through the bureau, thereby not needing to acquire SWIFT licensing and expensive support services. So I think in that area we made quite a difference to participation in the financial sector. And then with the development of chips, our effort has now gone to a broader market, which is the small business, the informal traders, and the public, the general public, to enable them to start utilizing technology for economic benefit.
Philip, thank you for that response. It's really useful to hear and understand where you've come from, where you're going, but also the difference you're making. And one of the words you mentioned was to help people start. If I'm a listener and I understand that I have a need for this TechFin, I have a need for the supporting services that you guys so kindly offer, and the ability you have to do what is that secure payment, what is that exchange of data, where do I start?
James, we would typically start with just visiting omnia.co.za, which got all the details of all our products on there, as well as our contact information. And they can submit a query they will go to our sales team, or they can just contact us. So typically the project starts with us having a meeting, having a conversation to try and understand exactly what it is that the customer would like to take to market. And then we see if there's a fit with the services that we have available that we can offer it to them. Now, obviously, when it comes to the payment space, compliance is a very important aspect. So we would do a bit of a vetting exercise on that customer as well to make sure that we've applied due diligence before we interact with that customer. But other than that, we're trying to establish a one-stop shop that would meet all their needs to actually make their fintech dream actually come true.
Super. And I think a lot of what you're talking about needs and the ability to deliver definitely ticks the box of the fact that there are so many benefits to the way in which financial exchange happens these days. And Philip, I very much look forward to reading more about the provenance of Trustlink and where Omnia is going. And I know there's a lot of excitement around the relaunch of this exciting new brand and the history behind it. So Dr. Philip Tromp, thank you very, very much for your insights and the history that you've brought to this industry. As the chairman of the Xea Capital group, you've definitely contributed hugely to the success of this amazing space that is South Africa and fintech, and the broader fintech that is across the sub-Saharan Africa and other countries I know operate in. As I said, you're currently based in Switzerland. So we very much look forward to seeing that and hearing about that and understanding what those benefits are to us as the consumer and the individual. And more locally based here in Johannesburg and Pretoria, Deon Tromp as the CEO of Omnia. Thank you very, very much for joining us today on the TCS Impact Series. We thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and look forward to watching this ever-growing brand and understanding more and more about it as it expands into the rest of this incredible world we're in. And thank you very much for joining me today, James Erasmus at TechCentral. We look forward to hosting you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James.